dinosaurs run the best ranch in town, but don't let the dinosaurs escape.
Hi, it's Tarrant.
And Stella from the Dust Hour for How to Play video series.
In this video, we'll be teaching you Tiny Epic Dinosaurs, game designed by Scott Almes and published by Gamelyn Games for Kickstarter preview. We're using a prototype copy of the game here, so the rules and components that you see may not be final.
Now let's get to the table.
In Tiny Epic Dinosaurs, players compete against each other to build up the most profitable dinosaur ranches. Over 6 rounds of worker placement, players will compete to gain dinosaurs, barriers, and research for their ranches. And then players will house, feed, and breed their dinosaurs into their ranch, attempting ultimately to sell the dinosaurs on contract cards. At the end of the game, the player with the most points in active dinosaurs and fulfilled contracts will win the game. To set up the game, place the 4 central boards, A through D, next to each other in the middle of the table. Up in the top left corner of each shows you which side of that particular board to use for your player count. Above the board, lay out contract cards equal to the number of players in the game plus 1. Then below the board, place 2 research cards regardless of your player count. Each player is dealt 2 player boards. The players look at them, choose the one that they wish to use as their ranch, and then flip the other one back to the player board side. All ranches have the same number of squares, icons, and features, but are laid out in a different configuration. Take all the meeples in your player color. Set aside one of the small rancher meeples and then place the rest into your ranchers area. Take the resource trackers representing meat, leaves, and supplies and place them next to your player board. You'll be moving these cubes up or down this track on your player board to represent how many of each resource you hold at a given time. Choose a first player. Whoever plays second takes 1 leaf, whoever plays third takes 1 meat, and whoever plays fourth takes 1 supply. Finally, place the round tracker in round 1 of the overview board, and place each player's set aside meeple next to number 4. You'll be gaining these in round 4 of the game. You're now ready to play. Now I'm going to take you through a quick overview of the 7 phases of a round of Tiny Epic Dinosaurs before I come back and go through them all in detail. The first phase is resource collection, and each player will gain leaves, meat, and supplies based on all the icons that are not covered on their ranches. This means in the first round of the game, players will get everything, but as they start to hold more dinosaurs, the resources they gain will decrease. Phase 2 is the Assign Ranches phase. This is the worker placement phase of the game, and one at a time, starting from the first player, players will take it in turns to place 1 or more meeples onto a location on the main board, immediately gaining its effect. Occupying a space does not completely block an opponent from using it, but the opponent must place 1 extra meeple there to take the action. During this phase, players can gain dinosaurs or barriers into their holding area, gain additional resources, gain research cards, or fulfill a contract from dinosaurs already in the player's ranch. This phase ends once all players have placed all their workers. In phase 3, players retrieve all of their workers back to their ranches. Phase 4 is for players to arrange their ranches. And here, players will add any new barriers as well as new dinosaurs that they've gained during this round into their ranches. Players may also rearrange their existing dinosaurs within their ranches. At this point, any dinosaurs that cannot be enclosed will escape. Phase 5 is to feed dinosaurs, and players will need to feed all the dinosaurs in their ranches based on what those dinosaurs eat. Any dinosaur that cannot be fed will escape. Phase 6 is to breed dinosaurs, and in this phase, any breeding pair within your ranch will produce an offspring. Any offspring that don't fit in enclosures will escape. Finally, Phase 7 is to refresh cards, and the contract and research cards will be set up for the next round. A couple of important notes to remember about this phase sequence. Whenever you gain dinosaurs or barriers in Phase 2, they move into your holding area and don't move to your ranch until Phase 4. And whenever you spend dinosaurs to fulfill a contract in Phase 2, they must come from your ranch, not from your holding area. This means that any dinosaurs you put into a contract will have to wait until the following round after you've housed them and fed them at least once, and you need to plan ahead for this. Secondly, you'll already be able to see some of the pros and cons of holding a lot of dinosaurs at once. Holding dinosaurs lets you breed them, bringing new dinosaurs straight into your ranch. But you'll need to feed them each round while they're there, and you'll start covering up some of these resource icons, giving you less material to feed them with. As such, key to the strategy of the game is maintaining an optimal number of dinosaurs within your ranch and keeping them flowing out onto contract cards as you go. So now let's look at each phase in detail. The first phase is resource collection, and you will gain resources matching each of the icons which is uncovered on your ranch board. Here the player would gain 4 leaves, 2 meat, and 1 supply. You cannot have more than 13 of a resource, and if you would go over, you lose the excess. Phase 2 is the Assign Ranches phase. Starting with the player with the first player token and going clockwise around the board, players will take it in turns to make one placement of ranches onto a placement space on the main board. Usually, this will involve placing one normal rancher meeple onto an empty space and immediately taking the associated action. But if a player wishes to take an action which is already occupied, then that player may place more than one meeple there in order to take the action. The number of ranches placed must be one more than the most ranches already placed by a single player there. So the second placement on a space would require 2 ranches, and the third would require 3. Players also have one large meeple, known as the lead rancher, available to them. The lead rancher counts as 2 ranches, and so a player could use this space for a lead rancher and a normal rancher, or could simply use a lead rancher on an empty space in order to make it more difficult for other players to go there. What players are not allowed to do is place more than one meeple at once when it is not required, and may not use an action space which already contains one or more of the player's ranches. So now let's look at all the action spaces. We're showing you the 4 player sides of the board, so not all of these spaces will be available on lower player counts. The free-range dino spaces allows you to capture dinosaurs in the wild. Place a rancher, and then take the matching dinosaur type into your holding area. Then roll the wrangling die. 3 of the 6 sides of this die show a net, and if this rolls up, nothing else happens. 2 of the 6 sides show the claw marks, and this means an injury has happened to your wranglers. Take all the ranchers you placed in this action, and then place them on medical leave. Don't be too worried, you'll still get this worker back to place in the next round. All it means is that the rancher is no longer there to make that space more expensive for other players. The 6th side of the die shows an egg, and if you roll this, you take a second copy of that same dinosaur. This could be a blessing or a curse, depending on whether you have the food or space to accommodate the extra dinosaur. To gain dinosaurs with a more certain outcome, you could instead go to the dino market spaces. To use one of these spaces, you'll pay the resource shown in order to gain one of the dinosaurs shown into your holding area. In the center of the board, you'll find the action spaces related to barriers. Using this space, you would gain 1 barrier, which is placed into your holding area ready for placement in Phase 4. Here you would gain a barrier and a supply. Here you would pay a supply to gain 2 barriers, and here you would pay 2 supplies to gain 3 barriers. The other 2 spaces let you rearrange your barriers. By using this location, you will first take the first player token from whoever currently has it. This doesn't change the current round's turn order, but you'll play first in the next round. Then you may immediately rearrange any of your barriers on your ranch. Note that there are no restrictions on how you do this during Phase 2, and you can even leave dinosaurs outside their enclosures. The final barrier space is this one, which will cost you 1 supply. This action allows you to immediately move 1 dinosaur from your holding area to your ranch. And this is the only way that you're allowed to make such a dinosaur move during Phase 2. Then you may rearrange your barriers as described before. The next spaces are the contract spaces, and the action here is always the same to fulfill a contract. The action space itself may have a resource cost depending on how early you get in. To take a contract card, you must discard dinosaurs from your ranch, not your holding area, matching the icons shown on the card. Then keep the contract card near your board, ready to total up the score in final scoring. Contracts are only worth a few points more than the dinosaurs that went into them. This one, for example, has dinosaurs worth 9 points for a contract worth 12. However, the key with the contracts is it gets those dinosaurs out of your ranch, banks the points, and creates space for you to get new dinosaurs in. It also helps you to keep your resource icons uncovered. Contracts that are fulfilled are not replaced until the end of the round. Down the bottom of the board you will find the research spaces. Once again, all of these have the same action, which is to gain a research card, but each will have a different cost. When using the research space with a dinosaur cost, that dinosaur must come from your ranch. To take the action, choose either one of the face-up research cards under the board, or take 3 cards from the top of the research deck, choose one of them, and place the other 2 face-up under the board. There are 2 types of research cards. Science cards show a flask, and dinosaur cards show DNA and a dinosaur icon. When you gain either sort of card, place it face up next to your player board, and if you took a dinosaur, take the matching dinosaur figure and place it into your holding area. Research cards have a number of victory points associated and a text effect which you'll be able to apply for the rest of the game. Research cards come with a variety of different types of actions. Some science cards make other actions stronger, such as this one which lets you rearrange your barriers every round, and some will give you extra end of game points based on an objective. Unique dinosaurs can often give you similar sorts of benefits, or benefits which depend on its placement on the grid. This one, for example, doubles the resource yield of any spaces orthogonally adjacent to it. There are also some unique dinosaurs which go in the water space on your ranch. The last action spaces are the resource spaces, and by going there, you will gain the resources shown on that space. After all players have placed all of their ranches, you'll proceed to phase 3, which is to retrieve all players' ranches from the board, including any that are on medical leave. Then proceed to the arrange ranch phase. In this phase, you will need to arrange all of the dinosaurs and barriers that you've collected during this round into your ranch. Then you'll check for escaping dinosaurs. There are different placement rules for barriers, basic dinosaurs, and the unique dinosaurs that you get on research cards, and we'll go through each of these now. Barriers may be placed onto any of the dotted lines between squares on your ranch. During phase 4, you may only place new barriers. You cannot rearrange barriers that were already in place. When placing barriers, you're trying to create enclosures, which is any set of squares which is completely surrounded by barriers, mountains, or water. So this, and this are all enclosures, but these, because they open out to the grassland on the edge of your board, are not currently enclosed. This is important when you consider your placement of dinosaurs. Basic dinosaurs must be placed on land squares inside an enclosure. And you may not have more than one species of dinosaur inside the same enclosure. However, you may freely rearrange dinosaurs that were already on your board in order to accommodate them accordingly. You cannot place a basic dinosaur in an unenclosed area as it will escape. Unique dinosaurs differ from the basic dinosaurs in that they may be placed outside the enclosures without threat of escape. You may choose to place a unique dinosaur inside an enclosure if you wish, but you won't be able to place any other species inside that enclosure, including other unique dinosaurs. But you can put multiple unique dinosaurs in the same unenclosed area like so, leaving your enclosures for the dinosaurs that need them. At the end of phase 4, any dinosaurs that you cannot legally accommodate in your ranch escapes. If you can accommodate a dinosaur in your ranch, you must do that. You cannot simply allow them to escape. When a dinosaur escapes, this will come with an extra penalty, and I'll go into that a little later in the video. Now you'll proceed to phase 5, where you'll feed all the dinosaurs in your ranch. Check the food cost for each of your dinosaurs. This will be printed here next to the jaws, either on your player board or on the research card that came with the dinosaur. Some research dinosaurs are omnivores, meaning you can choose to feed them with meat or leaves. Here, the player chooses to feed a total of 8 leaves and 3 meat to cover all of these dinosaurs. Any dinosaurs which cannot be fed escape, and you cannot choose not to feed a dinosaur if you have enough food to do so. Then you'll proceed to phase 6, which is breeding dinosaurs. For every pair of matching dinosaurs you have within the same enclosure, you produce 1 offspring. That offspring must then be accommodated in an appropriate enclosure per the normal placement rules. Any offspring that cannot be placed immediately will escape. The offspring does not need to necessarily be placed in the same enclosure as the parents. Unique dinosaurs from research cards never produce offspring. Now let's look at how dinosaurs escape. We've just seen 3 ways that you can trigger an escape: by not being able to enclose a dinosaur, by not feeding it, or by producing an offspring that you can't house. When a dinosaur escapes, not only do you lose that dinosaur back to the supply, but you suffer an additional penalty. When the escaping dinosaur is a carnivore, then you must also lose 1 other dinosaur from your ranch. If the dinosaur that escapes is a herbivore, then it breaks down any 1 barrier of your choice from the ranch. And if the dinosaur that escapes is an omnivore, you may choose whether to take the penalty of a carnivore or a herbivore. Now, there is an important restriction here, and that is that you will suffer each of these penalties, the carnivore penalty and the herbivore penalty, only once each per round. This is true even if you lose multiple dinosaurs in different phases of the same round. Secondly, the penalty occurs in the phase when the escape happens. So, if from a carnivore you lose a dinosaur, you'll then not have to feed that second lost dinosaur in the feeding phase. Thirdly, when a herbivore escapes and knocks down a barrier, this does not trigger a series of further escapes. Earlier, I showed this barrier coming down, which opens these 2 stegosauruses up to the grassland. However, because you've already done this round's check for escapes, these will not escape immediately. But if you can't fence them back in before the end of the next arranged ranch phase, then they will escape. But remember that only enclosed dinosaurs will breed, and so if you destroy a barrier that opens an enclosure, you will not get breeding from those dinosaurs in this round. Finally, if a unique dinosaur ever escapes because you fail to feed it, then in addition to losing the dinosaur, you will lose the card. As the final phase of each round, you'll refresh the cards ready for the next round. Refill the contract supply up to its total quota, and discard all face-up research cards and put 2 new cards face-up. Then proceed to the next round. After 6 rounds are complete, the game is over. Players total up all the points on their contract cards, all the points on their research cards, and the points associated with any dinosaurs they have left in their ranches. The player with the highest score wins, and in the event of a tie, whoever is closest to first player in turn order breaks that tie. And that's how to play Tiny Epic Dinosaurs. We hope you enjoyed this video and we hope that it helps you.
At the time of filming, Tiny Epic Dinosaurs is about to be launched on Kickstarter. So we'll put the link in the descriptions below when it is live so you can check it out.
If you have any comments or feedback, please write them in the comment section below.
Until next time!
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando, in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.